Now we are going to discuss about refraction through a prism. Here we are having a triangular glass prism ABC, and a light is entering to the one face of this prism. The incident light ray PQ is falling on the face AB of the prism, and it is making an angle with the normal, the angle of incidence I. And after entering to the prism, the light ray undergoes refraction with an angle of refraction R1, and on the other face AC, the light ray again undergoes refraction and emerges out of the prism with an angle of emergence E. So in the whole process of refraction through a prism, we can see that the incident ray undergoes refraction twice, and there are two angles of refraction, that is the angle of refraction at the face AB R1, which is the angle made between the refracted ray and the normal at the face AB, and the refracted ray and the normal at the face AC makes an angle of refraction R2. So there are two angle of refractions, and the incident ray makes an angle with the normal known as angle of incidence, and the emergent ray makes an angle with the normal known as angle of emergence. We can see that both the incident ray and the emergent ray meet at a point, making an angle between them, and this angle is known as the angle of deviation. So the angle made between the incident ray and the emergent ray is known as the angle of deviation. Now the angle of the prism is the angle A. So in the scenario of refraction through a prism, we have to understand the process of refraction occurring through a prism, and also about the angle of incidence, two angles of refraction and an angle of emergence, and also the angle of deviation, which is the angle made between the incident ray and the emergent ray. In the figure here, we are going to analyze by considering the quadrilateral that we are having here, that is AQNR. The normal on both the faces AB and AC are extended and they meet at N. Now we consider the quadrilateral AQNR here, and if we analyze the quadrilateral AQNR, we can see that here the point N is obtained by extending the normals at both the faces of the prism, and we can therefore say that the angle Q, that is the angle between the face and the normal, is 90 degree, and angle R is also 90 degree. And we know that the total angle, that is angle A plus angle N plus angle Q plus angle R, is 360 degree, and we have seen that angle Q and angle R 90 degrees. Therefore we can say that the angle A and angle N, both the angles sum up to form 180 degree. So from the quadrilateral AQNR, we reach at a conclusion that angle A and angle N here are forming 180 degree. Now in the figure we are going to consider the triangle QNR, that is the small triangle that is formed by the points Q, N and R. So if we analyze the triangle QNR, we can see that the two angles of this triangle are the angles of refraction R1 and R2, and the other angle is angle N. And we know that the sum of the angles of a triangle is 180 degree. Therefore R1 plus R2 plus angle N is 180 degree. Thus we obtain two relations based on the quadrilateral and the triangle that we consider, that angle A plus angle N is 180 and R1 plus R2 plus angle N is 180. So on comparing these two equations, we can say that angle A is equivalent to angle R1 plus. So on comparing these two equations, we can say that angle A is equivalent to R1 plus R2. So we obtain angle A to be R1 plus R2, and we told that angle A is known as the angle of prism. Now we consider in the figure the triangle QMR. M is the point where we obtain the angle of deviation, that is by extending the incident ray and the emergent ray we obtain the point M, and there we obtain the angle of deviation. So on considering the triangle QMR from the figure, we can say that here the angle of deviation is an exterior angle of the triangle QMR, and we know that the exterior angle of a triangle is the sum of the other two interior angles, and here the other two interior angles are angle MQR and angle MRQ. So we can write the angle of deviation delta, which is one of the exterior angle of the triangle, is equal to sum of other two interior angles, which are angle MQR plus angle MRQ. Now if you observe the figure here carefully, we can say that the angle MQR is obtained by I minus R1, because angle MQR plus angle R1 is the angle of incidence itself. They are the opposite angles, as you can see in the figure. So the angle MQR can be obtained as I minus R1. Similarly, on the other side, the angle MRQ can be written as E minus R2. Thus we can write angle MQR is equal to I minus R1 and angle MRQ is equal to E minus R2. Thus we obtain the angle of deviation as sum of angle MQR plus angle MRQ, and in the place of angle MQR and angle MRQ we write I minus R1 and E minus R2 respectively. Thus we obtain the angle of deviation delta is equal to I minus R1 plus E minus R2, and on rearranging we can write this as I plus E minus of R1 plus R2, and we have already seen the result that R1 plus R2 is the angle of prism A. Thus we can write here I plus E minus A. So we obtain an important relation for the angle of deviation of a prism as angle of deviation is equal to I plus E minus A, where I is the angle of incidence, E is the angle of emergent, and A is the angle of prism. So we can see that the angle of deviation depends on the angle of incidence, angle of emergence, and angle of prism for a particular refraction. Now from this expression we can say that the minimum value for deviation, that is angle of minimum deviation, is obtained when I is equal to E. That is, the minimum value for delta here can be obtained when I is equivalent to E, and also when I is equivalent to E, R1 will be equal to R2. So we can say that at minimum deviation A, which is R1 plus R2, can be written as simply 2R, because R1 and R2 will be equal, and let that be R. So angle of prism can be written as 2R, and from this the angle of refraction R can be written as A by 2. So this is the condition for minimum deviation. At minimum deviation the angle of refraction will be half of the angle of prism, and we denote the angle of minimum deviation as dm. So as we told, the condition for minimum deviation is angle of incidence is equal to angle of emergence, and let that be represented as I itself. So the expression for angle of minimum deviation, that is delta, can be now written as dm is equal to I plus I, which was I plus E, now has become I plus I, because the condition is the condition of minimum deviation, minus A. So we can write this as 2I minus A, where A is the angle of prism, and from this we can write the expression for angle of incidence as angle of incidence I is equal to dm plus A by 2. So this is another important condition that we obtain for minimum deviation, that is, at the condition of minimum deviation the angle of incidence will be equivalent to dm plus A by 2, where dm is the angle of minimum deviation and A is the angle of prism. So we have obtained the expression for angle of incidence and angle of refraction at the condition of minimum deviation, and from this we can now obtain the Snell's law, that is the refractive index at the time of minimum deviation, that is n21, as sin I by sin r, which is equal to sin of dm plus a by 2 divided by sin of a by 2. So at minimum deviation, the expression for refractive index becomes n21 is equal to sin of a plus dm by 2 divided by sin of a by 2, and we know that for small angles we can approximate sin theta as theta itself. Therefore, the expression for refractive index now becomes a plus dm by 2 divided by a by 2, which can be written as a plus dm by a. Thus, we obtain the expression for refractive index by approximation as 1 plus dm by a. So, this is the case of minimum deviation condition. Thus, we obtain an expression of angle of minimum deviation in terms of refractive index and the angle of the prism. So, if we know the refractive index and the angle of prism of the given prism, we can find the value of the angle of minimum deviation, and this is the case for a thin prism. So this is all about the refraction through a prism, and we obtain the expression for minimum deviation in terms of refractive index and the angle of prism. And on analyzing the refraction through a prism, it is found that a graph plotted between angle of incidence and the angle of deviation, we obtain a curve which is having its minimum value at the angle of minimum deviation. So, if we are having the values of angle of incidence and corresponding angle of deviations, and we plot a graph between these two, we obtain a similar curve, and there will be a minimum value for the curve, and that is obtained at the angle of minimum deviation. So, thus from a graph we can also obtain the value for angle of minimum deviation. Now, towards the end of the chapter, we are going to understand the phenomenon of light called the dispersion. So, let us see what happens when dispersion occurs through a prism. Dispersion is simply the splitting of light into its component colors. So, when sunlight is passed through a prism, we can see that the sunlight, which is also called the white light, splits into a sequence of colors which are violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red, and this is abbreviated as VIBGYOR. And in the obtained sequence, we can find that the red light bends the least, whereas the violet bends the most. Now, it was Sir Isaac Newton who analyzed and verified whether the component colors of a white light after dispersion can recombine and form a white light again. That is, a white light when passed through a prism undergoes dispersion and splits into its component colors, and when these components are again passed through an inverted prism, they recombine to form a white light. This was experimentally done by Sir Isaac Newton, and he found that when a light ray passes through a prism, it undergoes dispersion and gives the component colors, whereas when another inverted prism was placed near to it and the dispersed light was allowed to pass through the inverted prism, on the other side of the prism a white light was obtained, and this is known as the recombination of light. So, in our visible light spectrum, which is the VIBGYOR, red light has the longer wavelength and violet has the shorter wavelength. So, every color light has different wavelength, and the longer is for red whereas the shorter is for violet. Among the component colors of white light, all the colors travel with the speed which is c, that is 3 into 10 raised to 8 meter per second in vacuum. But when they enter into a medium, the speed of these color light varies, and red light moves faster than the other lights. So definitely red light will be faster than the violet light. So whenever the white light enters to other medium, the red light has more velocity than other colors and therefore than the violet color. And we have already seen when we analyzed the concept of refractive index that refractive index is inversely proportional to the speed of light. So since red light is having greater speed, the refractive index of red light will be less when compared to violet light, which moves slower in other mediums. So violet light will be having greater refractive index and red light will be having smaller refractive index value. And we know that refractive index is the measure of bending of light, and therefore red light, which is having the least refractive index value, will bend least, and violet, which is having greater refractive index value, bends the most. Now an example of dispersion of light that we see in nature is the formation of rainbow. So when the sunlight enters the water drops in the atmosphere, it undergoes dispersion, reflection and refraction. So as you can see in the diagram, there is a raindrop represented here with a sphere, and the sunlight entering to this raindrop undergoes dispersion and splits into its component colors, and on the inner surface of the raindrop, the component colors hit on the inner surface and reflects back, and after this reflection it again undergoes refraction when entering to the atmosphere from the water drop, and we can see a spectrum of light from violet to red. And it is found that the violet light has an angular difference of 40 degree from the incident ray, and the red light is forming an angle of 42 degree with the incident ray. So this is the process of dispersion in nature, that is, when a sunlight enters to a water drop, it undergoes refraction, reflection and dispersion, and thus we are obtaining a rainbow in the nature. Now we are having primary rainbows and secondary rainbows that occur in the nature. Primary rainbow is the one that we just saw, that is the rainbow formed through 2 times of refraction and 1 time of total internal reflection. So as we have already discussed in the previous figure, the sunlight once entering to the water drop undergoes refraction, and it undergoes total internal reflection on the inner surface of the raindrop, and on emerging out of the raindrop it undergoes refraction again. So 2 times of refraction and a total internal reflection occurs, and thus formed rainbows are called the primary rainbow. And the primary rainbow has red light at the outermost layer and violet light in the innermost layer, and they are seen brighter and clear. So sometimes the sunlight that enters a raindrop undergoes 2 times of reflection inside the rainbow. So once the sunlight enters the raindrop, it undergoes a total internal reflection, then again it may undergo total internal reflection for the second time. So 2 times of refraction and 2 times of total internal reflection occurs, and the rainbow obtained by this process is known as the secondary rainbow. In the secondary rainbow, we are having violet light at the outermost layer and red light at the innermost layer, and the secondary rainbows are fainter than the primary rainbows, and they appear to make an angle of range 50 degree to 53 degree. So this is about the phenomenon of dispersion and the formation of rainbow in nature due to dispersion.